Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, I am so glad to be here talking to these selected and respected people. And sorry for leaving after the presentation. You know, I have to go back to, it takes me much time, and maybe my friend Yaqub knows how suffering to go back to Jordan. The Jordanian policy in foreign terrorist fighters, FTF, Jordan's, first of all, I'm going to talk about the Jordan's challenges on and the opportunities. We in Jordan, as you know, stands today before grave challenges to the fate of our country, people, and our region. Jordan has long been thought of as an island of stability in a volatile region. However, the country suffers from enduring and potentially explosive political, economic, and social tensions. It is a tall order, and for some, it may appear impossible to achieve, but the price of failing to do nothing or little is dangerous. The risk of new global trends of terrorism, the risk of a new wave of global terrorism could soon increase as ISIS is looking to regenerate following defeat in Syria and Iraq. The current dynamic in Syria actually favors the group to restart its activities in the north of the country as the Battle of Idlib continues. The more terrorist and the criminal groups work together, the more dangerous the threat and the more difficult it is to address. The current situation in Idlib, Libya, and across the region should be considered in this context, as while they may seem minimal now, they could lead to increased instability across the region and the world. The security challenges are not limited to our region or to one region or one criminal group. These are multiple groups across the global dealing in drugs, tobacco, weapons, human trafficking, money, and other logistics for terrorists. The criminal activities have created various challenges for security service across the region, especially given that local criminal groups have been given the opportunity to increase their activities by connecting to international criminal networks. As such, the region is seeing a radical increase in the sophistication of a crime, and security forces are facing a new wave of criminal techniques that have not been seen before in the region. This development requires security forces in the region to understand the global criminal trends and increase their connections with global crime fighting rather than just intelligence and anti-terrorism forces. While the focus has been on the threat of terrorism, the new wave of a criminal network cannot be separated from the terrorist. In fact, they can be used to track the terrorists, but require better integration with the global policing and the crime tracking in order to understand the networks. This requires greater cooperation between security services in the region and across the world. The Jordan policy on foreign terrorist fighters, FTF, the threat of terrorism and extremism, which has set out to tarnish the image of our religion and the other respected religions, and hijack the future of young people. It is therefore our duty to protect them from destruction to their religious and ideological beliefs. Since terrorism poses a great threat to civilians who make up the majority of its victims, we must work together and with the world to counter this danger through a holistic approach. We hope that the recent talks will bring about a breakthrough in the Syria crisis and enter its 8th year to launch an exclusive political process that involves all components of the Syrian people, maintains the territorial integrity of Syria, and guarantees the safety of its citizens and the return of the refugees. You know, in Jordan, we have more than 1.5 million Syrian refugees. We reframe our support to the Iraqi government in its fight against terrorism, paving the way for an inclusive, comprehensive political process that safeguards the rights of all and establishes for a united and stable Iraq. We express our support for efforts to restore stability and security in Yemen and Libya in order to build a bright future for their people. To that end, we must take the initiative and put forward groundbreaking solutions to challenges in order to prevent foreign interference in our affairs. The response to this terrorist threat must also reflect the fact that, like Islamist groups' extremism, violent white extremists are organizing across borders, becoming closely connected and eager to amplify one another's messages. The threat of terrorism and extremism, which has set out to tarnish the image of our religion and the other respected religions, and hijack the future of young people. It is therefore our duty to protect them from ideological beliefs. The world, especially this region, cannot afford to let a new wave of religious militancy emerge. The level of destruction that ISIS has caused in both Iraq and Syria goes beyond the massive loss of life and the destruction of cities and national treasures. It had dealt a heavy blow to the diverse ethnic, cultural, and religious fabric of the region, a disaster which will take us decades to recover from. Since our region had become a battleground for religious militancy and civilians had been its main victims, so it is enough. And the dark chapter of ISIS and Al-Qaeda must be closed forever. While Europe must rise to the challenges and face its responsibility by reclaiming thousands of foreign fighters being held in Syria and Iraq, the international community as a whole must focus its efforts on bringing stability to countries. Tensions provide where civil war and ethnic and sectarian tensions provide a fertile ground for extremist ground. These include Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, and Yemen. It is a tall order, and for some it may appear impossible to achieve, but the price of failing to do nothing or little is hefty. There can be no peace, no stability in the region without a just, comprehensive solution to the Palestinian cause, the core issue of the Middle East, based on the two-state solution. In the final analysis, no form of violence targeting innocent people should be justified or tolerated regardless of the skin color, religion, or identity of the criminal person or group. Thank you so much.